And away we go.
Away we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the playoffs. It's week 19 of Zesty's Best Bets. Happy to have you. It'll be a nice, short, sweet episode, hopefully, with only a few games on the slate. Zest, Betting Public, welcome. Let's get it started.
Playoffs?
That Saturday game. The early matchup is Browns-Texans. Browns minus 2.5. Zesty, I know you're on the Browns. You're on the over. You're on Stroud under 242.5 passing yards. Flacco under 37.5 attempts. You got a couple other. David Njoku over 5.5 receptions. Anytime over 54.5 yards. So, all over the board. You get started.
Yeah. First off, I want to congratulate those who followed me on the, Michigan national title against the points. Washington under team total. Michigan over Alabama. Now we're on to Cleveland. Cleveland.
Yeah. Congratulations, Michigan followers. Also, congratulations, Bills followers from last week. A couple of very successful bets, but another great week for the pod on both sides.
Called that division win 3 weeks ago.
Now we're on to Believeland. So during some of my studies up in Mount Everest, Joe Flacco is the only quarterback in his first 4 years in his career to win a playoff game. This guy just turns the game up when it comes to the playoffs. So the -2, it actually came back down to Houston. Houston, just like Miami last week, is actually getting some sharp money. There is a lot of metrics that back Houston. The problem is now if you start looking into trends, quarterbacks in general making their first playoff starter like 17. Well, they're not. They're 17-32 against the spread. They don't fare well. The playoffs are a different animal. The Browns defense, a little bit of their bugaboos is on the road. It's not the same, and the points show that. I think it's almost a touchdown worse. But they also had a weird game against the Colts where they gave up 40, so it kind of threw everything off. Houston already played a playoff game. They're a little depleted. They cannot defend the tight end at all. They are the second worst team in the league against the tight end. Since Joe Flacco has started, 4 of his 5 games, the Predator, David, has been targeted 6 or more times in 4 of those 5 games. So that kind of correlates into why I like him over almost everything. I think the yards might be a little high, but Amari Cooper just caught another catch against Houston. I don't know if you guys remember that. He went for like 7,000 yards, 20 catches the last time we played Houston. They're probably going to overcorrect to take Amari out of the game plan, and they struggle against tight ends anyway. Flacco's looking for tight ends. As I said, excuse me, and then that leads into, I think this Browns team is just better. They run the ball. Houston does not stop the run. We saw that against Indy. Indy had a very good chance to win that game and just didn't. Flacco's about 80 years old, but he's still better than Minshew, especially in the playoffs. They're probably not going to get loosey-goosey with it or be able to dictate the script. That's why I like the attempts under his 37.5, because I think they're going to be able to control the game and run the ball. And honestly, score enough to make Houston have to push the ball or playoff script. And I think the total hits, because I actually really don't like betting against Stroud. I think he is a solid quarterback when he's not pressured. When he's pressured, he drops all the way to middle of the pack or worse. I think Cleveland's still going to be able to get after him. They're a little depleted. Well, not a little depleted. I haven't checked today, but as of earlier yesterday, Noah Brown is questionable, probably not going to play. So that's 2 of the 3 receivers down. You still got the tight end, but they're not going to run the ball very well against this front, in my opinion. The game script's going to kind of get away from Stroud. That I don't know if he's got enough horses. And I guess I'm kind of middling myself to an extent. I think they can both score to a point, and then it kind of pulls away. But I also like Houston with the teaser with Dallas minus 130, because I don't think Texans are going to get blown out. So +8, -1 on the Cowboys. And that's kind of my game script of how I believe this game's going to go.
Public, pretty convincing argument for me. Let me know if you have anything to sway me off of this bet, or if you're in full support of what Zesty just said.
Yeah, I think a lot of what he just said is stuff that I agree with. The big things for me are the fact that you have a rookie quarterback going into the playoffs. Back when Dak was making his rookie start against the Packers in 2017, if you look at the NFL quarterbacks who had won games as a rookie in that period leading up to 2017, you're looking at guys like Russell Wilson, Ben Roethlisberger, Mark Sanchez, Joe Flacco. And to me, the thing that stands out about that group of players is none of them were asked to be the dude on their teams and carry their teams. They were all part of very complete offensive attacks in terms of having a running game to support them, as well as having a defense that gave them a lot of opportunities to win and have a short field. So the other group that did not win as rookies, Robert Griffin, needed to put the foreskins on his back. Andrew Luck needed to put the Colts on his back, didn't win. Matt Ryan needed to put the Falcons on his back, didn't win. So to me, that kind of indicates that if your quarterback, who, Stroud, amazing rookie season, has played ungodly, but he's the dude in Houston. If he doesn't play well, they're not going to win. So to me, I struggle picking in favor of him, especially with the line where it is. You can get the Browns only as a 2-point favorite. And then I do see some of the reason that you talked about with the pressure getting to Stroud. The only concern that I have with the Browns defense in terms of pressure is whether or not Garrett is healthy enough to be the strong pass rushing attack that they need. He had a little bit of a shoulder injury late in the year, and that's kind of impacted his performance of late. But if he's just been kind of, letting it go because Flacco's been slinging it, who knows? And if he's healthy enough to get to the quarterback a few times, then I think that that does it for Cleveland. I'm actually on the under for the total, mostly because I think the Browns will be able to take away Stroud's first option most of the time because their weapons are hurt in Houston. And with that, I think that the Browns will be able to run the ball, have long drives. Amari Cooper's not going to have 256 yards receiving again. I like the Njoku prop. I'm also on the over for his receiving yards. I sprinkled some money on Amari Cooper's over as well because it's at 64.5, and I figure he can have 25% of what he had against the Texans last time. But beyond that, we're in quite a bit of an agreement here, and I think that the Browns are gonna find some success down in Houston. Should be a hell of a game to watch, though.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys both said. The biggest thing to me is all those rookie quarterbacks who won those games had defenses, and the best defense on the field on Saturday in that game is the Cleveland Browns by far. I do believe the Houston defense will rise to the occasion because they know Stroud is the dude, and they've got a lot of weapons out. Like you said, there's just all the things lined up against the Texans and CJ Stroud in this game. He doesn't have the defense to support him. There's no veteran wide receiver in that group to bail him out in any big situation here, to even like rely upon for a catch. So it'll be tough, especially against the Browns. I do like the under. Like I said, I do think Houston will rise to the occasion because they know they're going to have to play a lot of defense. That being said, I love that. Did you say the total on the throws was 37.5, Zesty? Love that. Well under that. I see it just being a very defensive game, limited possessions. So that's what I feel. Go ahead, Zest.
One additional caveat, I guess. So Houston's banged up everywhere. Didn't check it today because I wanted to wait, but both of their bookends didn't practice. They haven't practiced all week. They didn't practice Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm not sure what they did today. That means, to me, the over. As I mentioned, they don't defend the field, mostly the tight end, but essentially that leads to the middle of the field usually. I think it plays a little weirder than we expect, and that's why the 2 is odd. And as I mentioned last week, every sharp in the world was all over Miami. I'm not saying I'm something, but I stuck to my guns. I trusted what I know, that the metrics are a very valuable portion over a long stretch of averages. And usually when you're wrong because of, that's why they're sharps. This has that kind of vibe. They played, 3-4 weeks ago? I forget what the hell it was. I'm pretty sure the Brownies won in the highest scoring game. Oh, no, that was the Keenum versus Mills game. Neither one of the starting quarterbacks even played. And it's still, I guess I should pull it up before I talk out of my ass, but I'm pretty sure it was a relatively higher scoring game than you would expect with 2 backups. So I think there's going to be I'm curious on a first half or a first quarter under. I think there's going to be a little playing out, and then I think it's going to go balls to the wall. I think Cleveland's defense is legit, but I also think CJ Stroud is legit. I don't think he has the horses. Honestly, his under prop is more of a bet on something a little different than how I think the game script's going, to at least catch one side of something, but it still fits in with the mesh point.
Yeah,
because I think CJ Stroud is a guy. I think he's a dude.
CJ Stroud is for sure a dude. Speaking of dudes, watching that fucking Bills game last week when they were talking about Josh Allen being the dude, and then Kalishaw had to say it fucking 20 times in the next 2 minutes. Even my 11-year-old son was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" He's like, "Oh, the dude, he has a new hatred for Josh Allen because of Kalishaw." That was ridiculous.
Yeah, Collinsworth is
Yeah, not Kalishaw, Collinsworth.
up there with some of the. He's not Gus Johnson disgusting, but he's trying to work his way up there. I'm pretty sure we'll hear him with the Chiefs, and he'll just be. I bet you he mentions the temperature 50 times. I wish there was a bet for it.
Holy fuck, that would be. If you can find it, folks, it's over on that prop. Christ, will he be talking about the weather? Let's
He'll
get
be
into
the
that.
only one. He'll
Go
be the
ahead.
only one. He'll be the only one saying nicer things about Patrick Mahomes than Brittany Mahomes during the game too. So it'll be a slurp fest all around.
Loves to stroke a little ego. You know what I mean? Let's get into it, Zesty. Dolphins at Chiefs, 44.5. I think we all are looking at that under. And Chiefs -5 in the frozen tundra.
Yeah. Miami has been in Miami for a month. I don't know what the temperature was. And it's not going to break a record on the temperature swing because that was 140 degrees in like 19. I don't know. But it was essentially
40.
100 and something. And then the following week it was -50. So there was 147 degrees of temperature change in a game. So obviously they're not going to break that record, but they're quite a bit of temperature change. So let's say it was 70 or 80. I would imagine that's a relatively decent Miami weather. And now you're coming into -20. So, I mean, we're getting up to 90-degree temperature change and then gets worse as the game goes on.
Night game.
Yeah, I don't love anything about Kansas City other than Mahomes has the most playoff victories in the field. Joe Flacco's second. The metrics again are a little skewed on this game. Kansas City is not that great. But I promise you, Miami's going to go in there. They don't run the ball. They run the ball well, but it's finesse. We talked about this a little last week. They're finesse backs, too. It's one thing to have yards per carry.
They need people movers in this game.
Yeah.
I don't
exactly. No, there is not people movers. I don't believe there's going to be much snow, so I'm not worried about traction and speed and big plays and stuff like that. This is going to be a cold game. They're going to get hit, and then they're going to fold up. And then there's also I don't really fall into this narrative of believing, but if they win, they got to play Baltimore. And I know they're not necessarily thinking that, but when it's -20, like, you know, I'm actually calling them out. Let's see how much heart they have. But then I'm going to go back to the CJ Stroud. This is Tua's first playoff game, 17-32 against the spread. First time they just don't do well independently. Miami doesn't have the defense they did. They're very well coached and scheme. They just don't have the dudes. Luckily, they're playing the Chiefs, which we haven't said that too much. This is going to be honestly a really ugly game with two good offenses and good coaches that everybody likes. So some of the props, I'm on the Chiefs -5. Hell, I would take them up to 6.5. The only time I would start, I don't even know if I would buy back on the Dolphins. I think they just played a playoff game. They blew the division. They're kind of reeling in the wrong way. Just got their ass beat by Baltimore. An entire month in Miami. I just don't see them just flipping the switch and trying to do some things. Metrically, yeah, it says they can have success on the run, but I don't believe that's even going to play because negative weather is cold. I don't know how many times you guys have been into that, but it's cold. So then that leads me into I like the game under as well. I like pretty much under all over, but Miami specifically, you can get it from 19.5. I've seen 20.5 still out there. Obviously, you want to get 20.5 if you can. I don't think they're going to do much. And then again, my correlating bets, the first half is going to be the highest scoring. One, Kansas City. I think over the last 14 weeks, don't quote me on the weeks, but it's been a wide spread. They're only averaging 13 total points in the second half. This isn't even weather related at all. So the fact that we're going to get into sub-team negative weathers or weather, and they're just going to flip the switch with Tua from Hawaii. Some of these other people that obviously they're all from Miami. So even then, like for work, I traveled to Arizona. It was 118. And I was freezing my balls off at 80 degrees in my hotel room. So there is a difference. And I'm a cold weather guy. So it's going to be a factor. Nobody ever wants to say it, but they're going to go in there, especially the people that aren't in every play. Like they're like, let's get this game over with. I know it's an easy cop-out cap, but sometimes those are you just take them and run them. What else did I have? Like I said, first half scoring, Miami team total under. I didn't get into player too much, but
Public player prop.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying on the line. I got it at 4.5 earlier in the week. Also have the under at 44.5. I think my bet's actually at 43.5 because I did get it a day late. That being said, can't dispute anything that you've just said. I think you're going to see some Dolphins dudes on the sidelines with coats that are bigger than you've ever fucking seen in your life. So there's going to be a problem for those boys, man. And I see the Kansas City having a little bit more success. Maybe not a ton, but I like player props of Rashee Rice getting over 63.5 yards. He's Mahomes' favorite target on the outside. And with Xavier Howard being out, I think that they're going to be able to move him around and take advantage of the injuries on the Dolphins. Travis Kelce is going to be able to get open over the middle. I think he's going to get over 57.5 yards. This, to me, feels like a very Isaiah Pacheco type game where it's very nice that Kansas City has him back healthy, and they'll just pound him out, use some play action, get Kelce over the middle for some big plays, and dink and dunk for most of the game. So keeping the possession, keeping the ball away from Miami, keep that defense on the field, and keep that offense on the sideline, freezing their fucking tails off until they get back in the game. So that's where I see it going. I do have a sprinkle on Tyreek Hill over 84.5 for the only reason being that he's going to be their big target throughout the game. Like, no matter what happens, I think they're going to just keep funneling it to Hill because they're not going to have any other success in other areas. because I think Waddle's still going to be limping around the field, and they're not going to be able to run the ball efficiently. So I think it's a flyer for sure. But if I was going to take a prop, that's where I'd go for the Dolphins.
I'm not angry at that. They're gonna definitely go ahead.
Her ankle in the cold. I don't even know if we finished this game.
That's
he
fair.
He left, or damn near left last week after he did a backflip. Obviously, he's gonna want to ball out. 84.5 is crazy.
Maybe no backflips. Maybe no backflips.
It's crazy because of the weather.
Right.
If there's swirling winds, I get where you're coming from because, one, they're going to throw slants. It's very possible, he can break one. And I would have left it off my slip completely. But go ahead, moderator.
I think it's reasonable because of the amount of touches and looks he's going to get. Because here's the thing: is they don't have anywhere else to go beyond that. I think Waddle is definitely more banged up than Tyreek Hill is. Was why he was out last week when Hill played. But the other thing is, I think Andy Reid will scheme to one, like TJ said, get his number one option, Kelsey, open across the middle. Shouldn't be as difficult as it will be for Tyreek Hill to get the touches. And nothing's going to be easy in this game. I definitely like the under. But I don't know. Something just tells me Andy Reid and them boys is going to – and I love McDaniels as a coach, but they – victim of their own success a little bit, maybe. They've had a good year.
It's health. It's health. Like,
a team.
They got so many guys on IR.
Yeah, they're beat up. They've had a great year, and they can look at themselves in the mirror losing this game in the freezing cold and say, get them next year. Kansas City is not going into this game with that fucking attitude at all. And it's all about attitude to me, for the most part. Most games, like Kansas City has everything to fucking lose. For Kelsey and Mahomes, this is their fucking legacy. It's like, who knows if they're ever even going to play together again in a position to really win games. Based off how it looked this year, it's just like nothing's guaranteed. So let's make another fucking run at it, and you have the experience to do that. You don't have the dogs to do it. You don't have the weapons like you had in the past. And I'm not saying they were going to make a run, but get this first game against Miami team who is reliant on Tua and Tyreek Hill. Yeah, I like that. In freezing temperatures.
Yeah, that's.
I was going to say I certainly would have been going against the Chiefs had we not had such success last week on the Bills.
Yeah, that's why. Best of luck. That's why I won't say I hate the reek prop. You got to think, as the moderator just mentioned, Waddle's out or likely not going to be anything. So now we've got Robbie Chosen as an option. Got Chase Claypool as an option. Yeah. I'm not a D coordinator, but I would be stopping Tyreek. I would have under and over coverage.
Possibly a hobbled Tyreek, like you said.
Yeah. I'd be coming after him. And I'm like I said, Spags is going to be much more efficient. I'm just saying, I get where you guys are coming from. They're going to feed him targets. Then they're going to blow the doors off them. And Kansas City's just, going to win double digits because it's not a good game plan to that. To that, Kansas City doesn't want to be showing up, in theory. But they just don't have the dogs that we've mentioned it several times. Beat me with somebody else. one of my favorite things about Bill Belichick, it was he would have had to be a defensive coordinator, but he was playing Jim Kelly in the Buffalo Bills. Yes, he was Bill Parcells' defensive coordinator, I believe. And he said, Thurman Thomas, have a day. You have a career day because Jim Kelly is not going to beat us and they won a Super Bowl. I would imagine there's going to be some similar things that, they want to.
I'm glad you said that because that's kind of where my mind went. Like Andy Reid will say, Tyreek Hill, have 100 yards, but don't.
Yeah, but who else is going to beat him? It's not like Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas. I'm just saying he is the Jim Kelly in this situation. Like, you're not going to beat us. Have at it. Have at it to it. Have a day. It's like the opposite.
Yeah. Or Chain. Go ahead. Get some yards. Yeah.
Well,
and Kelsey, I guess to finish it, I don't know what to think of Kelsey. I don't know if he's lost a step or
he is old. He's 34.
I don't know, but he's not, which is weird because last year he was pretty elite. So maybe it's just the over top isn't a threat, so everything's compressed.
Yeah.
I haven't seen him look like he's lost a step. I think it's just there's no overtop threat. Maybe Hardman can, if he catches the ball, at least add that separation factor a little bit to allow. But I don't know.
Yeah, last couple of weeks, the other tight ends have caught more balls.
Yeah,
whatever the hell else they got.
Yeah, Kelsey's almost turned into the
decoy.
The separation factor for, like you said, the tight end and the other garbage receivers they employ.
Right.
Yep.
It definitely the production has fallen off.
Speaking of garbage.
Hey, moving on. The Bills Steelers. Steelers getting 10 fucking points. I love that. Zesty, I know you love it. Start us off here.
I do too. Right off the rip, Buffalo's 0-7. It's a 2-point or a double-digit dog. Or, excuse me, a double-digit favorite. They just don't cover double digits.
0-7 seems bad.
Yeah, that's not great. And then haven't checked the weather, but supposedly up to 35-mile-an-hour winds with 50-mile-an-hour gusts. We all remember the Patriots-Bills game that Mac Jones threw 2 passes, which leads me into a whole bunch of our props here, but Pittsburgh just played a shitty game, and it almost benefits them. The loss of Watt isn't that crucial because Pittsburgh, when Hayward is in the lineup, I forget the rankings, but I know it's a top 10 rush defense. So they're going to stop the run. The wind and gusts are going to help the defects in the pass game. This is going to be an ugly game. Buffalo has played a gauntlet. They've had to win, I think, 6 now. They just played a game, an emotional game that, truthfully, Miami outplayed them for quite a bit. And Josh Allen tried to play a little hero ball. You got to like it, but honestly, Buffalo should beat that ass. But they kind of rat-fucked themselves, and it turned into a sweater a little bit. But
when I thought it was 14-14, I turned it off, walked away. said, "Fuck my money. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I hope it ends up good."
Oh, I was diving back into the pockets and ready to fire more, but yeah, I was getting a little fussed. I think they had 3 turnovers and or 2 turnover. They had 3 scoring opportunities and they fucked them all away. So that's what I was upset with. Into this game, let me try to remember. Basically, up into like 2020 or 2002, when a underdog is catching double digits and the total's under 37, they are almost unbeatable. I forget what the ATS is, but it's at least 2.5, 3-1. So Pittsburgh and the under.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're definitely not going to make Rudolph get out there, and Rudolph's actually been playing plus level ball since he's taken over. Obviously, he's only had so many attempts, but he's 16th best quarterback. I know he's the backup, but his statistics on that.
He's ever looked.
And then they're going to run the ball because 35-mile-an-hour winds, not beneficial to throw the ball, especially with 50-mile-an-hour gust, if that happens. Plus, Buffalo, the stadium itself is pretty terrible.
Jalen Warren.
Let's
fucking go.
Yeah, which then let me know if I forget something, but I've got Diggs under 62.5. They're not going to throw the ball. Pickens under 38.5. If he is the deep threat, they're still not going to throw the ball. They might get ding and dunks. I'm not as high on that one, but I still think it's a good number. I got Josh Allen under 29.5 attempts. I know they like to showcase his arm, but they might have enough success without it. Or Pittsburgh plays decent enough defense against the run, which then leads me to his under 37.5. Everybody's like, oh, they're going to have to run the ball. What do you think Pittsburgh's going to do? They're going to stop Josh Allen in the run game. It seems high to me. It wouldn't shock me if he went over it, but I think this is going to be we're a 10-point favorite. We just ran the gauntlet. We got Kansas City next week.
We're hot shit. The Steelers are not.
Yeah. And then so Rudolph's longest completion under 27.5 outside of a slant and go like they just had. They're not throwing the ball. He is not getting more than 15 yards, air yards, even when they need it. Like I truly believe it's going to be a script that if it's not 3rd and 6 or less, they're going to punt it. They're just going to, they're not going to punt it or screen or just, play dink and dunk.
You're not worried about a screen throw out of the backfield to Pickens or one of those running backs, and all of a sudden break the big one. Fucking
definitely not Najee. His over yards for reception 7.5.
Yeah, it's not going to be snowing. It's not going to be like traction and slippery fields. Not going to be an issue. It's just going to be freezing, like you said.
Yeah,
so.
It's going to be the only reason Rudolph's over would hit is a slant and a run.
Yeah.
Buffalo's defense is not the problem. They played really well. They played an offense that is way more capable with the slants there. And then you have the wind is your 12th or 13th man on the field. they're not going to throw the ball deep, so you can sit a little more because even if you throw it deep, good chance it's not going to get there.
Right.
I've got props all over the place. I don't have any official bets on this, but these are all things I play. I played Josh Allen over a pick, even money. I play Rudolph under a pick because I don't think he's going to expose himself. Josh Allen rushing. Josh Allen's longest completion under 32.5 all day long. I know he's going to try to showcase his arm, but Gabe Davis is on the roster, but he's only on a roster run go routes, and he's disappeared. Diggs is going to be shadowed by Minka. Diggs is going to be – it blows me away that 62.5. Like, I like that one quite a bit. I might actually throw down on that, but this is going to be another game. You can even get crazy and start messing with kickers and field goals, stuff like that, because I think it's going to get to the point that you're at the 35-yard line. Instead of kick your field goal, you just pooch punt because you can't go for it. Like, it's going to be another game. That's why, honestly, I think this total continues to drop. Weather related. So
opened at 41.
Yeah.
It's been a precipitous drop because of the weather. And just a little bit of more detail on the weather. When you're talking about that level of wind, there's just no reason to try and showcase anybody's arm, because even an accurate throw with that much wind and a 50-mile-an-hour gust, that could end up in the hands of not the safety that's in coverage, but the one that's fucking running across the field to catch up just in case they catch it and run for a touchdown. So there's just no reason to have that type of pass in the game plan. And what's up?
There's no better leader through a fucking cold, windy night than Rudolph. So.
Yeah, I fucking bet. We'll see how the Santa Claus theory plays out. I honestly, the thing that gives me concern about the Steelers here is the fact that they don't have Watt. If they had Watt, I think this is an easy Steelers plus 10. I know that even without him, they're still going to be able to, I think, hold Buffalo just because the game's going to be funky because of the weather. I think there will be a little bit of snow based on what I've seen. And in that type of wind in Buffalo, there's just going to be a lot of running game in both sides. And I have some props as well. I have Harris's attempts, Josh Allen's attempts, James Cook's attempts over from a rushing standpoint. Allen might not get to that total high, the 37.5. I think that's still probably a smart play. But I do think he's going to have to try and run the ball a few different times. So I like him to run it more than, I think it's at 6.5 or 7.5, depending on which book you look at. And then, Cook and Harris, I think both of them are going to have quite a few attempts as well. Warren probably going to be the one that they may try to dink and dunk to more often if they do throw the ball. But Tomlin's smart. He's not going to have Rudolph out there in the middle of a fucking windstorm that is ungodly, that, asking him to make plays. So that just wouldn't be a wise decision from their standpoint. And I think the difference between this win game that is going to be in Buffalo and the one that we talked about earlier with the Patriots and Buffalo is the Patriots-Buffalo game was actually a night where at night the wind tends to die down a little bit, and they saw that throughout the game. Here, this is the middle of the fucking day. The winds are going to be peaking throughout and not dying down. So I like the total under. I got my bet in at 37.5. Looks like it's all the way down to 35.5 now. So to me, this is a huge likelihood of being somewhere in the neighborhood of 17-10. If the Steelers somehow try to fuck it up at the end and give away a defensive score to Buffalo or something like that, or just a really short field, maybe that puts some pressure on it. But I just don't see enough points scored here to ride with the Bills because they're just not gonna score that many points. So how are you gonna beat somebody by double digits?
Yeah, we saw a similar trend in the total last week with the Jets and Patriots. I think that opened at 41 and closed at like 29.5.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly weather related. To close out, I did have Harris over 58.5. As the moderator mentioned, this is a move bodies kind of game. Harris is a move bodies kind of back. You must have heard a little bit of the chatter early in the year because he looked very slow in washed Eddie Lacy type back. So maybe he's got a little pep in his step.
I was gonna say earlier in the year he looked like that. Yeah, I agree with that. But I think he has heard that chatter because he's looked a lot better since Kenny Pickett's been out of the picture, and they've had to feature him more.
Yeah, he's definitely dropped the Eddie Lacy narrative the last 8 weeks, but
Yeah.
early in the year he looked like he was going to be out the league.
He took a step back and has maybe recovered, but I mean he really looked great and did not look great early on in this year. So fell off for sure. Hopefully he can take a step in the right direction this week. They're going to need it, and they're going to need Jalen Warren. They're going to need everything they can get to help Mason Rudolph out of a really shitty situation in Buffalo. But I'll be cheering them the fuck on. Definitely going to be taking a 10. I think that's, and I agree. TJ Watt being out is a huge loss. It's as big a loss as any defensive player being out could be. But the Steelers will do everything that they need to do to replace Watt in the scheme and just continue to get pressure, which is really what it's all about. So all the power to Highsmith, all the power to Ogunjobi. Fucking go Steelers. Let's move on to the next game. Packers Cowboys. Packers plus 7.5. Over 50.5. Zesty, tell us all about it.
It seems like it's been at least the last 4 weeks. Cowboys first quarter and over. This one's heavily vigged, at minus 130, but it's over 9.5. I think both of these offenses can score on their first drive. Dallas has scored over 30 points in every one of their home games. Green Bay's defense, although they showed up the last week or the week previous, because I was talking too much trash, but they are still not very good. However, Green Bay's offense is the number one offense the last 8 to 10 weeks. They ball out. There's a little hesitation with backing the number. I think the number is good. I think there's a lot of people backing it, but as we had mentioned, this is Love's first rodeo in the playoffs. 17-32 against the spread. However, they are clicking, and everybody wants to make it a love hate. No, obviously that was a joke. It's going to be a love narrative. But if Aaron Jones plays, Green Bay's offense is deadly. And the one thing Dallas has shown, you punch them in the face, they don't like that. They like the showtime. They like the big plays. They like the sit and squat. They like the rush the passer because they don't want to. I think Parsons is a good player, but honestly, right now he's 1.5. He doesn't. He plays the run in the pass, but it's like 1.5. He wants to play the pass. He kind of plays the run. So if you run right at him, it takes away his speed. You can bully him. Completely different ball game. They are still weak in the linebacker department, and like I said, Green Bay is clicking. These receivers are making pennies. They're happy. They're making catches. They're making plays. But Aaron Jones is the secret straw, or he stirs the drink. And I think it's going to be a problem. That's why I think Green Bay's team total 20.5 covers. I think they cover the game. Right now it's +7. I'd be a little shocked if it got under 7 just because of the buyback. I think we're going to hover 7-ish for the majority. There might be a little 6.5 and then buy back to 7. I love Dallas's team total. Shop your book. It's at 28.5 at some books, 29.5 at some books. As I mentioned, they've scored 30 all year long at home. They're running a 16-game win streak, which rolls into the second leg of the 6-point teaser I told you with Texas +8, Dallas -1. I do not believe Green Bay. I don't think there's value for Green Bay money line. Obviously, if you say, oh, plus money, yeah, obviously if they cover, the value's there. But as far as the actual bet to wager what you're going to return, I don't think there's any value.
Do you think the Packers win?
I do not. But if, yeah, we'll get into that. I've also got their total with a couple parlays. I think Dallas scores, but I don't think their defense stifles Green Bay at all. I think it's going to be a little bit of a sweater. I would say 31-27 maybe. I've got the team or the game over. I think it's going to be a very entertaining game because I actually think Green Bay or Dallas hasn't seemed to be able to beat Green Bay, but it was probably guy Rodgers. But Love 16 touchdowns, 1 interception the last 8 weeks, I think. Essentially half the season. 16-1 ratio. And he's throwing bombs. He's not just checking it down. So, not saying he's a dude, but Aaron Jones is a dude. And that running game complements them very well. That Dallas might be a little disadvantaged versus like a drop back straight passing team. That this is a play action first kind of pass attack. So that over. What did you say, public?
Yeah, I mean, the argument certainly scares me, especially as a Cowboys fan. To me, the path to Dallas covering and having the most success in this game leads me to the under, and that's because, to me, for Dallas to be successful in this game, they need to score early. So I like the first quarter over because I do think Green Bay will come out. They'll have a good script early in the game. But Quinn's got to get his defense to the point where, to exactly what you said, they can do what they're really, really good at, which is rushing the passer and sitting on routes and trying to make a big play. And if Dak and the offense can get them out ahead, and I think they'll be able to do that against Green Bay's defense, which is going to be further depleted. Jair Alexander showed up on the injury report just today, apparently rolled his ankle in some weird shit at practice. And that means more CD, more open running lanes for my man Jake Ferguson over the middle. And you're going to have Dallas getting out to an early lead. Parsons able to do what he does best. I love to throw a pick at some point in the game. He is in his first playoff game. They're not having a high success rate in your first experience in the playoffs. I think Dallas's defense is stronger than the Bears, who just held the Packers to 17 points. Granted, it's week 18. You're just doing what you can to get through the game. That being said, that's the path to me for Dallas to have the most success. And that's where I lean on the under the 50 total because I think the way that they win is by holding the Packers to fewer possessions and putting them in positions where they don't want to be, where they can't be balanced, where they can't use play action as effectively. And that's why I have the under.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm with the public here. I see points though. I don't know about the under. I like the over, but I like Dallas. And personally, I just think Green Bay, yeah, they're streaking a little bit, but who have they played? They played recently. Who they beat the Bears. The Bears might be the best 2 wins all year.
Who's Dallas beat at home?
I mean, it doesn't matter.
What?
The Packers are. I'm just saying, I'm not saying the Cowboys are some amazing world-beating team. I'm just saying they just have to beat the Packers. And the Packers are coming into Dallas, and it is Love's first playoff game. So if he does throw a pick, or if he doesn't look great, it's going to be a problem because the Cowboys are going to put up some points. I do believe that at home, 30, right around there. Not a whole lot more, but they shouldn't have to do a whole lot more unless it's an Aaron Jones field day. But it's like CJ said, their defense is stronger than the Bears, who just held them to 17. So I just don't see it for Green Bay this year. They haven't been a strong team all year. They are hot. They're as hot as they've been, but they're not a strong team. They're lucky to be in the playoffs. Am I wrong?
We'll find out.
Yes, sir.
Also, Packers bias still hanging on to that 2010.
I'll forever hate them for not letting Des Bryant have that catch. I blame them.
There's that. There's completely fucking Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion, for the entirety of his career. But moving on to Rams and the Lions. Rams are +3 in Detroit. Over under 51.5. This should be a good, solid looking football game. I think these are 2 good teams that are going to be operating on a high level. Zesty, tell me about it.
About 4 weeks ago, when we thought the Rams would match up potentially with the Cowboys, I'd said they'd win in the wild card. They would beat the Cowboys. I would still put that, pay attention, because if they do play, they're going to knock the Cowboys out, which rolls into my bet. I've got the Rams money line. They're going to win outright. They're the better team. I like everything about Detroit. This is just a bad matchup for them. They got screwed again. They should have probably caught the Eagles or a better matchup. I like the 3, obviously, as well. They're going to run the ball, and then in the event Detroit can stop the run, that still doesn't mean McVay doesn't continue to run the ball. His entire offense runs off of motions, play actions, run actions, and then he can fall back. Detroit, I believe, is 29th against air yards and passing attempts. So it all fails if Detroit wants to stop the run. They're playing into their own weakness. There's just nothing in this game that really sticks out to me for Detroit. Home field isn't anything. This is their first playoff game in forever. It feels like, anyway. I think it's not too terribly long, but bad matchup. They push the pocket, which so I've got Jared Goff over pick. I think this game does get a little wonky. He's going to have to throw a little more than expected. Detroit has a lot of success when they run the ball. They have similar ideologies, but Detroit seems to always have to throw or abandon the run and throw the ball more. I think it's very possible Goff he doesn't take too many chances. He's a smart guy, but pressure, disguise, I could see him throwing the game away, especially if they are trailing and have to push the thing, which then leads me to having more passing yards than Matt Stafford. As I just mentioned, I think the Rams are going to be able to run the ball. They're going to control what they want to control. They played the Commanders, which obviously this was a couple weeks ago. It was like a 10-minute drive just because they wanted to play around with runs. I think they can do that in this playoff setting and still be effective. McVay does a really good job just because he wants to play it. Running the ball is not necessarily even playing it safe with them because they can be explosive. I didn't put it on the sheet, but I would consider the first half under as well because I think both of them are going to try to dictate the run to come out like they did the Rams specifically against the Commanders. First play, 75-yard touchdown to Cooper Kupp. After halftime, after they controlled the scrimmage. So it's going to be a good little mind matchup. Again, correlating. I think the Rams win the first quarter, plus 110. So I'm all over the Rams, up and down, which is unfortunate because I really do like this Detroit team. It's just a bad matchup, and I'm not here to like a team. I'm here to make money. So, and then lastly, I think Detroit actually team total under 27.5. From ball control, time of possession. This Rams defense is actually relatively underrated. I think they cause enough issues. Likely Laporta is not to play. That's 80 catches and 10 touchdowns. The safety blanket that's no longer there. Sure, you might be able to plug and play, but now you've got Brown on the outside that's a focal point. Probably was going to be a focal point anyway. Take away the two backs. I think Detroit will move the ball. I just think in the 20s they're going to shut down. I didn't look at kicking props, but I would actually consider whoever the hell Detroit's kicker is over his props, whether it's 6 points or still going a half. I haven't looked at it, but I might dive in and do it a little bit.
You think Danny Campbell's going to be kicking the fucking field goal? Not going for it on fourth and fucking 6 and all that shit?
Well, either which way, it plays into the Detroit team total under. Like I said, I just think they're going to stall out. I think they're going to move it in between the 20s without a problem. I don't think they're going to hit pay dirt as much as you think. I think the game plays under also.
27.5 is high.
Yeah. I've also got them with a 3-teamer parlay money line with the Bucks and the Cowboys team total under. I've got them plus the 3 point, or excuse me, that money line pays plus 977. So $100 gives you 977 winnings. Then I've got them on a longer, which it never got on the sheet. I just updated it. I've got them on a 6-teamer that plays plus 73.92 with them winning outright with the Bucks in the other game or the other numbers or games we've mentioned. We'll say you public.
Yeah, I'm similar here. I like the Rams. I agreed with you a few weeks ago when you said that the Rams were going to be a problem in the wild card round for whoever they faced. I'm really fucking happy that what's his dick made sure that it wasn't Dallas and that it's the Lions. So appreciate you, Brad Allen. That guy, he wasn't eligible. You know, fuck him. Shout out Dan Campbell though for running the play to get fucking Decker reporting as eligible in week 18 just to say do double birds to the referees and fuck you very much. I really like Dan Campbell, like everything that the Lions are doing. I would love to see them advance in the playoffs, but as you said, this is a shitty matchup. I think that the Rams are going to be able to run the ball. They're going to be able to put Goff in unfavorable situations, take away his ability to be, you know, the most successful in play action, which is where he wants to be. And to that end, I like Kyron Williams prop over 82 rushing yards. I like Stafford's completion prop over 22, just because I think that they'll have quite a bit of plays on offense. So I think he has a good chance to hit that. And then I'm like you. I would take the Lions field goal over 1.5 prop, whoever their kicker is. And to me, you know, it's unfortunate, but I think Goff goes home early. And the first playoff game winner in Detroit for about 20 years is going to be old Stafford, which it's kind of a ironic thing, but I think that's the way it shakes out.
I think that's a beautiful thing. It gives me confidence that the Rams will give the upset. Shall we?
Yeah, and I'm also stoked on these fucking parlays that you're throwing in here. I love a good parlay. Nothing like throwing some money down the drain or seeing that 5 out of the 6 have already hit, and then looking at the fucking Buccaneers on Monday and being like, "What do I do?"
Tease all these fucking games together, please. So yeah, like you mentioned, Monday, Buccaneers, Eagles. Eagles -3, Buccaneers 43.5 is the total. That's the Eagles going to walk through it, or are they going to be the absolute dog shit that we know them to be?
So there's a lot of value on Tampa Bay. I was talking off air with the public here that this game's almost being priced as if Jalen Hurts is not injured at all, and Baker Mayfield has a broken leg. A lot of it doesn't make a lot of sense. Tampa Bay doesn't run the ball great, but when they have had success with it, they're relatively dangerous. Everybody in the world just saw them play the Panthers, but it was essentially a win and get in. They didn't want to get too crazy. Baker did have his leg rolled up on, or however he injured his ankle. I do believe he was a little nicked up. This guy's a warrior. He doesn't care. He'll go old school, take an injection. I'm not assuming that. I'm just saying it as a joke. He's going to be ready to play. Luckily, he's playing the Eagles that don't play defense. I would be shocked if they just randomly flip the switch. Like, we've mentioned it several times, but I think it's the 2018 Steelers or whoever, this is when the frauds become the frauds. And luckily we have two kind of frauds playing each other. They've already played, and it was 25-11, if my memory serves me right, in week 3, off the top of my head. Not that I remember that game for any reason or anything. I don't see that playing out this week at home. Tampa doesn't necessarily have a huge home field advantage, but it opened at 2.5. Some money's on Philly, but Philly hasn't done anything in the last since the Buffalo game when they could have lost, and everybody's like, "Oh, Jalen Hurts is the clutch gene." Literally, they've shit the bed the entire time. Even when they played Kansas City, they had a chance to lose. So they've been playing these games that they've been messing around with that maybe they're just not that good. And nothing. We got a little confused there with some hand gestures there by the moderator. That I have zero faith in the Eagles, and if you guys don't remember, I think Sirianni is not that great of a coach. So we shall see. There is the injury. I forget what the number was, but they're relatively banged up. And honestly, I'm a little questionable on Jalen Hurts. Said a couple of weeks ago, he's a warrior. He's going to play, but man, the Giants just beat the piss out of him. And say what you want to say. Oh, we were just playing around, but they had quit. So what kind of team is that? Now you're just going to flip the switch. Hey, we're in the playoffs. You're going to start wearing the fucking dog mask. Underdog. Well, you're not an underdog. Prove something. Otherwise, I don't think you're that good of a football team.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the Eagles got really lucky early on in the season. Started out 10-1, had almost no positive win differential. Caught up to them late in the season. Everybody kind of saw the weaknesses that exist. Not a good time to be an Eagle right now. AJ Brown didn't practice today. It's Thursday when we're recording this. If he sits, Eagles are even more fucked. Hurts has got a finger that looks like a Z. That's never good for a passing game. And I think that he's been banged up all year. I think that he's got something going on, either like with the hip or something lower body-wise, that prevents him from being as explosive as he was the year prior. Not looking good for the Eagles here. Obviously, Baker's injury is a concern. But as you said, I trust him to do what he needs to do to get into a position to play. And if he can have a few good drives here against the Eagles, which I think is more than likely to happen because the Eagles just haven't been playing very good defense lately, then the Buccaneers can do what they need to do to cover here. And I think they end up winning the game outright. I would have been worried if the Cowboys would have been in this matchup, honestly. A little bit less worried now that Baker's hurt. But I still think that this is the line's wrong here to me. It shouldn't be Eagles by 3. If anything, it should be Eagles maybe by a point, but there's no reason that Tampa Bay shouldn't actually be favored because the records don't fucking matter at this point. You're looking at which team is the better position to win, and to me, that's Tampa Bay right now. So give me the Buccaneers on Monday night. Hopefully we're looking at cashing that parlay, that 6-teamer, and they bring us home. One prop that I do like because old Baker boy is a little banged up here is his under on 10.5 rush yards. I think just about the last fucking thing that he'll want to do right now is scramble with a rib injury and an ankle. So, like the under there, just caught that one as I was flipping through. So, go Buccaneers. I like to see a lot of Vita Vea in this game, all up in that defensive line of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, should be nice little Monday enjoyment, hopefully for all of us.
Yeah, to piggyback, Philadelphia is a 3-point favorite over a handful of teams, and none of them are in the playoffs. So they shouldn't be a 3-point favorite over anybody. I didn't touch on my props for that reason. I don't believe they play any defense. This is I don't want to use the term hedge, but I think the Buccaneers score 21 points, so team total over 20.5, because I don't think Philly stops them. But if it plays how I think it's going to play, I don't think Philly gets 24, which is kind of the implied number here. So I've got the Eagles team total under 23.5 because Tampa Bay plays some defense. I think this game's going to be relatively ugly, which we both kind of – pretty sure we were both on the under here. Yeah, under – it's going to be more of a playoff field game, 21-17-ish maybe with I don't know. I have no faith in Philly. If they come out and play, have at it, but prove it.
I really love the under in this game. And I'm high on Baker Mayfield. And I believe Baker Mayfield, as both of you said, will be high on Cordell if needed to play in this game. But he's just going to do what's needed to get through this fucking game, just like he did against Carolina last week. It's not going to be pretty, but at the end of the day, he's got a few weapons on the outside. If AJ Brown can't play, that's huge. Didn't know he didn't practice, but that's bad news for the Eagles for sure. And yeah, like you said, the Eagles defense trending down, Tampa Bay defense trending up, and they are, they got a lot of the experience on their defense to carry them through this playoff. And I don't think they'll have to do much. I do think Jalen Hurts is injured, and if he doesn't have anyone but Devontae Smith to throw to, and they're reliant upon DeAndre Swift to do more than he needs to do, it's not going to play well for the Eagles.
I don't know if AJ Brown being out's that big of a deal. It actually might help the Eagles. It might actually go back to running the damn ball. The problem is the Buccaneers play the running game really well. They, for whatever reason, in my opinion, feel they need to showcase Hurts. Like, oh, look at him. He's a passer. I'm not saying he's not a passer, but he's made some pretty shitty throws. And when the Eagles are really good, which that was Steichen, we just watched him in the Colts, they run the damn ball unless they need to, and then they throw a swing pass. But I think the Eagles are missing the swagger. They don't know, are we outside of the tush push? That's their identity, but okay, what are you going to do for the other 9 yards until you can get to that point? If they are forced to run the ball, I think they're a better team. But if they have these off weapons to showcase and they want to play this shit, they are clueless. Because not only that, they're not taking shots. So that could have been an identity. They're not dink and dunk. That could have been an identity. They're all over the place. They have no idea what the hell they're doing. And it's honestly pedestrian. It's disgusting. And I could care less. But I'm just saying it's a bad coaching. Sirianni wasn't running the ship last year. He might have put the coaches in place, but he wasn't the one making plays, or not plays, but putting guys in position to win, as we can see now. So fuck him. I hope he gets his ass beat. But that's all I got.
Go Baker.
Great, but
See if we can get him back. There he is.
I'm back like cancer. So, I believe you were asking me about my take on the Eagles.
Just if you would like to defend them, please.
I would
But
not
if not,
like
then
to. No, I have no defense of the Eagles. Fuck them birds. Let's go get that money this week. As either of you, as we move out of the NFL playoff picture and into the slow season, have we thought about the NBA, NCAA basketball? Do we have a favorite women's team? How are we going to make money?
yeah, if you
Well-
would have had plus 60 for Portland
And
today, that was available, plus 60.
plus 60.
They cover. They cover.
Fuck
Wow.
the NBA. I mean, not fuck the NBA. I like the NBA. It's perfectly fine. I just don't watch it nearly as much anymore. I personally, after the Super Bowl, will be regrouping and trying to understand what's going to happen, or at least understand enough of the fucking players to be willing to light some of my money on fire during March Madness. So,
Yeah, March Madness. I'm good with March Madness. The NBA, I'd rather go read scriptures to some Ethiopian children across the ocean there than play around with the NBA.
I love
I don't know about any missionary work coming up for the podcast, but we'll definitely be focusing on some March Madness when we get the chance. While we're here though, before the playoffs start, Super Bowl predictions. Who's gonna make it, and who's your winner? I, for one, am thoroughly interested in chalk on this one. I think those dirty Blackbird Ravens are going to go all the way in the AFC. And I'm going to pick the 49ers in the NFC as a reverse jinx for my Cowboys and pray that somehow they find a way to slip past old Shanahan. But what say you fellas? I got Lamar and Lamar winning his first Super Bowl this year.
So I wanted to actually circle back on this. If you can find it, like before they play this weekend, Buffalo in the AFC Championship, because they win, Kansas City wins, Kansas City goes up to Buffalo. More than likely, they're going to be a 3-point favorite, give or take. I don't see Kansas City going up and beating Buffalo, so that just now slots Buffalo versus Kansas City, Baltimore. Very possible, very conceivable at least, that Cleveland could beat Baltimore. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but in that case, now you've got a home AFC Championship game in Buffalo. At worst, you're essentially, rather than betting this week's game, you're betting 2 weeks. I don't know what the payout is. I haven't looked to see if it's available, but you're essentially projecting that they're going to get to that point. Now, to your side, to break it down, if that's how it rolls out, can Baltimore beat Cleveland? Yes, they can. Can they lose to Cleveland? Yeah, they can. They're essentially 2 weeks out. Cleveland is one of the few teams that weather doesn't matter because they can play either which way. They can air it out if it's indoors. They can ground and pound if it's outdoors and shitty weather. Baltimore can do the same thing. I don't think the talent level's that crazy outside of the quarterback. It would, if I were to play it, and I haven't done this yet, I've played it in my head a little bit. How I'd play the AFC is if I can find them in Buffalo in the title game, I would then take a futures bet on Cleveland to make the Super Bowl. And then at that point, then you could potentially bet Baltimore versus whoever if it does go chalk. So now on the NFC side, as a Cowboy fan, you guys are going to root for your ender. I feel very confident in this. And it could be completely wrong, but Rams beat Detroit. Rams get the monkey off their back. They beat the Niners, beat the Cowboys. Rams are in the Super Bowl. Versus I still think Baltimore is the best team, but you got to prove it. I do think the Rams might be a problem. The problem for them is they put the Niners next.
Yeah.
The Niners are their daddy. So whether or not they can shake the,
And to me,
that would be the bigger thing. But I think the Rams would beat anybody in this playoff outside of the Niners, just because the Niners are kind of their daddy. The problem is the Niners are kind of doing the same thing. 2 weeks off, and now you play a competent team. They can match up. That are divisional foes again. I mean,
that's the biggest. Yeah, that's the easy fear
I don't
that I have right now.
I don't see chalk. I don't see Niners, Ravens. I would like to see it, but I don't see it. I think there's, and I don't think it's the Bills, which is everybody's next favorite pick. If I had to pick a long shot, it'd be Cleveland or the Rams to win the Super Bowl. Because one, if I have to live in a world where the Cowboys play for the Super Bowl and don't get that ass beat, I'll be very unhappy for 11 and a half months.
Rams and the fucking Browns Super Bowl. With the Rams winning? Or Joe Flacco winning his second ring? Or Stafford?
Yeah, that'll be a very honestly, it'll be. I guarantee you, the NFL doesn't want it. I mean, they probably want the Rams in it, but they do not want Cleveland in the damn thing.
Oh fuck!
But I don't know how I'd cap that. They would match up pretty well.
Yeah,
it'd be an entertaining football game, but the ratings,
right?
Well,
they don't want that matchup.
The Super Bowl is damn near ratings proof. You're telling me fucking people don't tune into this. I mean, we watched the Patriots versus the Rams, and it was 13-3. And I'm pretty sure it got more viewership than damn near anything the entire year. So
the NFL wants chalk, and there'll be fucking officiating crews in place to try and get that to happen. Let's be honest. But we all know officiating crews aren't everything. Betting public, do you want me to make my prediction, or are you going to throw yours out there first?
He said he's on chalk. He's got Ravens, Niners.
Ravens, Niners.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm Ravens, Niners. But that's because I'm trying to reverse jinx the 49ers. Fuck them.
I think the Niners do come out of the NFC pending a fucking meltdown, you know. It's their division to lose. Their conference to lose.
I truly believe the Rams, even though they are the Niners' little.
That's what I would define. If they fuck that up, that's a meltdown, dude. Like, there's no reason.
Yeah, they're the only threat. I don't think the Cowboys, as much as you want, are the nemesis to the Niners. I think the Rams are the bigger
But
because
I like.
Detroit,
I
could be
just.
the Rams.
I do love the Rams coaching staff against Jared Goff. They know him pretty well. I'm pretty sure they remember his weaknesses. And then Brock Purdy, it's like, say what you will about the kid. He's not a terrible quarterback by any means, but to expose the kid, I trust the Rams coaching staff just to scheme against it. I do like that. I just like McVay in that situation, and I think they've got the fucking tools to make a lot of noise, like you said. But so, would it be a complete meltdown? Maybe not, but they'd be expected to win that game by 3 or more. Am I wrong? So they're they should handle business and then swing it over to the AFC. As much as I don't want to see the Ravens do that, I just think they are head and shoulders above any team right now going into the playoffs. Their biggest fear is also taking a couple weeks off, losing the fucking Steelers, not playing, but you take a couple weeks off and then you're playing a real fucking team in the playoffs. So hit the ground running. I don't think they'll have any problem with that regardless, but be interesting. Be interesting to see if the Browns could shake things up. Flacco going against the Ravens like that. It's going to be, it's why we love the NFL, boys.
They're going to crucify Lamar. If the Browns beat the Ravens, they're going to crucify Lamar.
I can't wait. And then Flacco might get a fucking statue in Baltimore and in Cleveland.
Yeah,
that would be fucking crazy.
To close it out, one stat. Pretty sure outside of Pittsburgh upset, Browns loss, this will be the first time in like 35 years Cleveland has more victories in a season than Pittsburgh. Just, a little weird. But I'll close it out with I'll give you 4. Best bet, Rams money line, +3. You can put them together, 1, 2, however. I like the Browns -2. The under more, assuming you can get it 35 plus, so 35.5, or I like that. I do like Pittsburgh too for the same reason. I think the total plays under. Either which side, I like both of them. And the Dallas team over. I didn't necessarily rank them, other than I do think the Rams are the best play, whether you take the points or add the extra 40 cents for the money line. You guys got best bets, ranks.
The Steelers, bitch.
Go Cowboys. Fuck the Packers.
Yeah, but in all reality, making money, not being a fan, that -2, Cleveland, probably where my money would fall heaviest.
Yeah. Rams to me is my favorite matchup.
Yeah, I forgot Kansas City. That's pretty high up there too. I put that over the Pittsburgh game.
Yeah.
Rams, Browns, KC. I would.
Rams and the frozen Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm probably about to. I wouldn't go full nuke, but I'm gonna probably put a decent 3-teamer involving them together.
Put it down.
Sushi.
Market fucking 8, dude.
Mark a fucking 0, dude.
All right,
Mark.
fellas.
2-0.
I
It's been
got
real.
early morning. Got to rise and grind.
Don't we all? No.
Here's to the wild card being wild for all of us.
Good
Cheers,
dude.
everybody.
School's in session.
Bye-bye. See you next week.
Adios.